Greetings from Orlando, Florida. My name is Juan de Jesus. I'm the former Director of Electronic Commerce for the United States Army Financial Management Command out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Today, I'm coming out of retirement just to do this video. And I want to share with you my experience in deploying financial management systems, that being e-commerce systems, in support of CONUS, OCONUS, and deployed finance units, which in turn, they support, of course, our military, our civilians, our contractors, and our vendors worldwide. But before I do this, I have two disclaimers to give you. One, I haven't done this in a long time, so I got notes that I'm going to be looking at them a lot. The second one, I'll read it. I'm sharing this information based on my experience and is not sponsored in whole or in part by DOD nor the Department of the Army. So, let's go ahead and start. Experience. I have 21 years of active duty, that being in the Finance Corps, with 3 years of that being in the Field Artillery Corps. Of course, I was an enlisted, also an officer. Additionally, I have 25 years as a Department of the Army civilian that I did from 1995 to 2020. And that's the period I'm going to be covering. That was all done at the United States Army Financial Management Command, the great organization. So let's go ahead and talk about systems. We came up with 5 financial systems to support all these folks. Before I get into them, let's talk about some of the issues we had to take in consideration when we did our site visits. And I'll go down that laundry list real quick. Some of the issues we addressed facing the Finance Corps and CONUS and deployed locations included cash management, i.e. acquiring and delivering U.S. currency to the field to support the currency requirements, for the soldiers, the finance offices, the vendors, contractors, etc. And another one was reducing casual payments because they were issuing thousands of casual payments, especially in deployed environments. And there was lines and lines and lines at the finance office all day. Check processing and deposits. That was another thing that we had to look at. Why? Because it was a manual process and they were processing thousands of checks. That is, doing a manual 215 and then put them in the mail or had to go to the bank if there was a bank available. Of course, in Iraq, Afghanistan, there was none. Another one was paying vendors in U.S. and local currency. One of the issues we looked at, especially in deployed environments, the vendors would come in with plastic bags and finance would pay the contract and put the money in the bag, and they would go out the fobs. What were they doing with hard currency? That was a question. Another one was funding paying agents. We had paying agents that needed to do missions, purchase stuff for their units, etc. Well, we didn't have a finance office at every location. But most of this was done in CONUS, so we'll talk about that too. Another one that we looked at is on these systems, we had to make sure that they were portable enough. So when the finance units went out on an FMST mission, that is and to go to another location to support the soldiers and civilians, etc., their customers, that they could take them with them and use them. So we had a laundry list, and it was big, and it was very complex. So let's talk about the programs we manage and deploy to support the mentioned business issues. With the support of the U.S. Treasury, Bureau of Fiscal Services, the Federal Reserve Banks, DFAS, and many other people. So what I'm going to start off, the 5 ones that we're going to talk about, we'll take our time, and I'll give you a couple minutes of each. But the important part here is that there's still today, these 5 programs are being in use. So let's start off with the business issue that we had. The first one, we're going to talk about basic training. DFAS approached us and they were talking with the Treasury and they were talking about stored value card. And we said, well, what's stored value card? It's a card with a chip on it that we can preload value to the card and issue it. Hmm. Well, the business case that we had in the 5 locations of basic training were recruits. We had agents that had to go to finance, pick up cash, then go to the gym, set up a table. Then we had all those recruits in line. They would salute the officer, get their stipend so they could buy the toiletries, etc. That was a cash management program. The other issue that we noticed was the drill sergeants. They were not a happy campers because now these recruits have cash in the barracks. There was a lot of barracks theft. So they would march all these recruits to APHIS to get money orders. That way the funds were secure. But now they had to take them out to get them cash. So, and there was a cost to it too. So we came up with the solution with the Treasury. And we came up with a stored value card. And the first one, and you'll see them here, and I'll take this as an example. Our first one was at Fort Linwood. These are non-reloadable cards. And what we would do, we would put the individual's name, social security, etc. on the chip. And then we would preload the cards. Then finance would get a list. And then the agents would come and pick up the cards and issue them to the soldiers, to the recruits. Okay, so now what do the recruits do? We issue point of sales to each of the vendors, and we set up the back-end system at the Federal Reserve Bank. So now the recruit goes in, gets the haircuts, puts the card in, gets charged. Also, he could give a tip with it. We set the machine up to if they wanted to give a tip. At the end of the day, the vendor would settle the point of sale by dialing to the Federal Reserve Bank. It would connect in a secure file, would upload, and then the Federal Reserve Bank would decrypt it, look at the value, validate it, and push the value via the ACH system directly into the vendor's account. And then send a notice to the vendor, say, hey, your money arrived. And then they could, balance their books. Pretty neat. Yeah. So we took care of that problem at the 5 locations. And so we were doing this. A great man called Mr. Ernie Gregory, and who I worked for, and he was a DAS IFO for the Army and also the ASAFM&C. And these programs, in major part, are still around because of him. He supported them very well. So he calls me into his office. So I went from Indianapolis to the Pentagon, and he sat down and said, Juan, you know, they wanted to issue scripts again in Bosnia. The 266 Finance group wants to issue scripts. That being, and they asked us if that was possible. Well, I'm thinking we're using a stored value card in basic training. Could it be possible we could use that type of card versus scripts in deployed locations? So I told him, sir, that's a good one. So we got on a plane. I contacted my friends at the Treasury. We did a site visit. We briefed the 266 commander and all the leadership, and we went to Bosnia. We did the site visit. We looked at it and he said, yes, we can. So after discussions with the Treasury there, then we went back to the 266 and we said, yes, we could support this. And then we went back and briefed the senior managers, Mr. Ernie Gregory, of course, my commander, Yusuf Encom, etc. And we said, but there's a difference between this card, the basic training card, and the new card that we came up with, the Eagle Cash card. The first one deployed in Bosnia at Eagle Base, Tuzla. This card had to be reloadable. So we gave the software to the finance office. Finance office would be able to load the chip with information that was pertinent to the soldier. And that way we have a recording. So the soldier had to go to finance and he could load the value with a casual payment, a check, or cash. And then go on his business and go to the vendor, use the card, etc. And the vendor would decrypt, the vendor would go ahead and take care of the files at the end of the day and push them via email to the Federal Reserve Bank so they could decrypt them and push them on the ACH rail to their bank account. But now the soldier, if finance was closed and there was no value on the card, he was stuck. We were trying to reduce cash. So he had to go when finance was open. So that went on for a year or two, but we came up with a solution. So we deployed this card in many locations from Honduras all the way to Bosnia, Kosovo, Macedonia, and a laundry list of other locations. And of course, Iraq, Afghanistan later. So you want to know what the solution was, right? Well, we came up with a kiosk, just like in the airport. And what we did was we gave our requirements to Treasury and the Treasury working with the FRB, so forth, and we sent it to a vendor called NCR. NCR took our needs, our requirements, and came up with a prototype. This is what we wanted to do. Finance would issue the card, would embed in the chip, of course, the individual's name, etc., the checking account or savings account, PIN protected. Okay. So now the card is issued by finance. Now the soldier, we embedded all these kiosks around the bases. So the first one was the test bed, Honduras, JTF Bravo. So we did that. We deployed the kiosk there, and finance did the loading of the chip. So now the soldier was able to go to 5 or 6 locations because there were 5 or 6 kiosks 24/7. They would go ahead and put the card in, put in their PIN, and they were able to do the following: load value up to $300 a day, unload value back to their checking account or savings account, do a card to card transfer between soldiers or civilians or whatever. They could change their PIN and they can look at the last 10 transactions. Not bad. So now that was working great. The prototype worked great. We took care of it, and we did some, some upgrades on it. So now we were going to deploy it ubiquitously throughout wherever Eagle Cash was, from Afghanistan to Iraq to Egypt to Honduras to Bosnia to Kosovo. There's quite a few places. Even the other services used it. The other service took advantage of this. We shared this. Here's one of the cards of somebody else using the Navy Cash card. Okay, so there you go. We had Eagle Easy Pay and Eagle Cash stored value card. Both cards are still working today, and they reduce cash in the millions. And I'll give you those numbers later on. So, and now we have the kiosks. Now the soldiers can go and not worry about finance being closed because they can load value. And we could put them in other locations or other fobs. And at the end of the day, finance would go in, download the files onto a laptop, and push them encrypted to the Federal Reserve Bank. Federal Reserve Bank would receive them, decrypt them, push them to the banks to get money or to deposit soldiers' money. Okay. Now, what happened if we had a NSF that the soldier didn't have the money in the account? Very simple. The Treasury would receive, or the Federal Reserve Bank, and the Treasury would hold the bad paper, i.e. the NSF. and then we would represent them on the 1st and the 15th of the month on payday and collect the money. And it worked out very well. Okay, so now that's two programs we talked about and the kiosks. Now let's talk about when we were in Bosnia, the Treasury comes and tells me, Juan, we noticed that you do check cashing. I said, you're correct. We do check cashing at the finance offices. And you guys deposit it manually. You do a 215, and then if there's no bank, you got to send it to CONUS. That is correct. Okay, we have something called paper check conversion. I said, okay, explain to me that. Well, what we do is we image the check, and at the end of the day, you upload it securely, and we present it via the ACH system to the bank. And the bank will deduct the money from the individual's account and send the money back to the Federal Reserve Bank. Federal Reserve Bank deposits it back to whoever's using the system. I said, good. And he said to me, and we could use it here. And I asked him, Treasury, how many people or organization are using this? And he looked at me and said, only one. And I said, why not more? Because it's not flexible. I said, okay, well, we want to use it. We'll test it. So we tested this in Germany, and they called it military paper check conversion. Today it's called OTC net, over the counter net. And what we did, they changed the software to fit the military. So we tested it, and this is the way it worked. We tested first thing was in Shape, Belgium, if I remember correctly. So we were there with the Treasury, we deployed the system, and we advertised and told everybody that we were going to be processing this check 24 hours later. It would be taken out of their account. So you should have seen when the people were standing there, we would tell them that, they would leave. So this is the way it worked. Cashier of finance would take the check. They had the software that imaged the check, the front and back. Once the check, it would check the bad database, see if they were on the bad checklist. This was done internally to the software. And then they would get the check back to the customer, their money, or we loaded it to the Eagle Cash card if that was down the road. So what was next? At the end of the day, they will upload it to the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland securely. They would receive it at Cleveland, decrypt it, push it to the ACH rails, and they would go ahead and get the money back from the bank and make a 215 and deposit it. If there was bad paper again, we use the same system that we did with Eagle Cash. If the check came back, the Treasury would hold it, represent it on the 15th and on the 30th on payday. What was the success rate beforehand? Before military paper check conversion, and short for PCC, was 30%. Okay, success rate of deposits. Today, and after we did all these deployment, it went up to 99.5%. Outstanding, superb. This is now used ubiquitously through DoD and throughout all federal agencies. Now, I have to tell you this. You know how you take your phone and take a picture of a check today and then deposit it directly into your financial institution? The reason you can do that today is based on this program that we did, the military paper check conversion. And the Treasury did a bill for Congress and they approved it and passed the law and said now financial institutions can do it. That's the reason why you can do it. It was based on this. Okay, so next program. International Treasury Services. This is electronic payments. Here was the issue that we had. Remember in Bosnia, Kosovo, all these deployed locations? Well, vendors would come in to finance and we would have to pay them in US currency or local currency. And then they would walk out the gate. Remember, we had to acquire the cash. We had to go to Germany if we were out of Kuwait and go get the money, then take it back to central funding, which was in Iraq. That took a lot of resources. So the Treasury came out with International Treasury Services. And basically is this. Finance receives the contract. They gave them a program that allows the finance office to upload the contracts, put the vendor information in, we have the vendor's account, pay the vendor just electronically, not only in US currency, but in over 100 local currencies. So that took the cash out. So now we have Eagle Cash, Easy Pay, Reduce Cash, its.gov, Reduce Cash, 100% accountable systems, Audible. You're following me, aren't you? Okay, we're on track. The last one I'm going to talk about because of time is the US debit card funding agents. Here's the problem, the business problem we had. And we did this, we were going to use the US debit card. First location was in Southcom out of Miami, Southern Command. Here's the business problem that they had. All their agents were in Central, South America, etc. So Southcom would approve a Class A agent to bring, let's just say, let's take Panama. They'll bring military personnel from Panama, Panamanian soldiers, to train in DC or attend a conference. Okay, that means they appointed the agent would receive a check from finance or DFAS, or depending who it was supporting them. They would receive a U.S. Treasury check. They would deposit that check into their account, their personal account. You're right, commingling of funds. Well, the soldier had to do the mission. There was no other way. There wasn't local banks and anything else. So this is what we did. We came up with the U.S. debit card. Okay, the difference was it had a MasterCard logo on there. Okay, so this is the way the system worked. We know that the business problem they had was funding paying agents. So now all paying agents were going to be approved in Miami at the Southcom G8. So what we did is we gave them the software, and then at the embassy, they had the embassy groups. What we did is we gave them, say, a load of cards. We gave them 20 cards and send them and mail them down to the mill group. There was somebody in charge, signed for the cards. So now there's a mission, that mission in Panama. This is the way it works. Southcom approves the mission, issues the orders, says you got $1,000. Pull out card number 1 out of your stock. Southcom is going to go ahead and load the value on the card from the software, authorize it, and issue a PIN. Now, that agent can go to an ATM and withdraw funds to take care of miscellaneous items for those Panamanian soldiers that are being escorted for their training. Also, they can pay for their tickets, everything, and it's 100% accountable. Let's suppose they lose the card. We can cancel the card immediately. But here's the power of this. Now, this agent is in DC, and the mission gets extended. They need more value. Very simple. Southcom gets in the system, uploads another $1,000 to the card. Issue resolved. Mission continues. No cash issue. No commingling. Outstanding. The success of this program at Southcom, thank God, back then her name was Captain Angela Larson, and a contractor named Dave Powell, which then he went to work to Yusufinka. Today, this card is used throughout DoD, and it's a superb ad. Again, reduce cash, commingling. So far, I went through all these programs very quickly. So let me talk to you about high-level lessons learned. It's a laundry list, so I got to go quickly here. Acquire senior management support and buy-in. We had it, Ernie Gregory, at the ASAFM, at the Finance Corps, at the supported commands. It's important that you do site visits and you know your customer's problem, understand it. Make sure that your national providers are also with you. They must understand. So that way, when they're doing the software and the hardware, everything clicks and they understand the lingo. Acquire funding annually to support the deployments, training, and sustainment of such programs through the POM process, which was done. Have a strong deployment plan coordinated with the partnership, that being ASAFM, DoD, DFAS, Treasury, FRB, finance units, postal, etc. Ensure the programs are audited by the Army and DoD levels to validate the requirements and the benefits. Very important. Always brought in AAA. Ensure the programs are codifying policy, regulation, i.e. within the DoD FMR, the Treasury Manual, Army policy, the Federal Reserve System, down to the finance level that they do policy memos. All that has been done on these programs. Additionally, ensure the programs are 100% accountable for the customer funds, to include return of funds like the Eagle Cash, where we had KIAs, MIAs, killed in action, missing in action. Those funds, if they had cars, we would do a bump with DFAS and return the funds on the cars back to DFAS. Have the right team on hand, heavy on information technology and software review. Other organizations, you have to have them with you. Make sure they're part of you, that they help deploy the systems, any system. That being, if we need postal, we need MWR, AFIS, etc. It's very important that we have that. On testing of the software, make sure that when you're testing the software or the hardware, we picked one location overseas to do it, plus we had a lab at USAFINCOM, and we would test every piece of equipment. Testing was not out in the field. We needed to make sure we were giving them a good equipment and top of the line, which we did. So I know this has been quick and it's been long, but there's a lot to cover. In closing, let me just read a couple things I have here. I would like to leave you with the following takeaways. First, I want to congratulate ASMC for their 75th anniversary. I can tell you one thing, thanks to them, I was able to take advantage of the education training opportunities through their PDIs, but also I was able to brief all these programs and get the word out and share this. That's why the other services and other federal agencies were able to take advantage of this. So sharing, thank you, ASMC. On use of income, e-commerce support. They have a dynamic team of experts, second to none. Include them in your deployment, on your development of your deployment plans. They have a direct line of engagement to the Treasury, the Federal Reserve banks, and they provide outstanding e-commerce can't say enough good things about e-commerce support and the e-commerce team out of Yusuf Income. The e-commerce program discussed are successful and provided the Army Finance Corps and other federal agencies with automation of manual processes. Here's some of the benefits that we've earned because of execution of these programs. We have electronically processed over 929 million, yes, million, transaction value at almost $70 billion. Okay, reduce costs and manpower. We've done cost avoidance compared to cash-based operation of more than $456 million. We've improved customer service to the military and civilian worldwide. Timely payments, not standing in line, security, all kinds of things. We've improved accountability and audibility. 100% accountable system. We've increased mission time and security, that being using the kiosks or using the US debit cards, etc. Reduce manpower requirements in theater because we increase manpower by using the kiosks as electronic cashiers. There's less corruption, money laundering opportunities. Supported nation building, currency stability. Less US currency going out the fobs. Now we pay them electronically and we support building nation because now they have to accept electronic payments to their banks. Reduce payroll transaction and soldiers' debt. I mean, now people didn't have to stand in line, go to finance, get a cash payment, etc., etc. And when you're processing over 150,000 cash payments in Iraq and Afghanistan, that's pretty bad. So we did away for most of that. Additionally, to my former team members, thank you for the truly amazing work you have done to improve our finance core. You did and continue to do a superb job. Thank you. I'm very proud of you. Additionally, to our partners, and to mention a few, U.S. Treasury, Bureau of Fiscal Service, Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, Cleveland, Kansas City, and New York, DoD Comptroller and DFS, all our sister services, banking officers, and many private industry organizations. These programs continue to be instrumental to our financial management community and mission support. And they would not be active, still in use today without your amazing personal commitment and support. I want to thank you all for your time. I know this has been a long video, but I came out of retirement to do this for you. So I hope you enjoy it. This is Juan de Jesus signing off. Thank you.